Hi, and thanks again for joining me on this episode of MTV Monster TV. And today we're going to talk about how to renovate your outside garden area. Now, often we focus on the inside of a home when we're doing renovations, and we forget about what we can do outside. This might be you preparing the home for a sale, or just to renovate the garden for yourself and what you can do with it. And gardens can make a great difference to the external life hanging outside, because in this country we've got so many months of the year where the sun is shining, and as the winter rains are almost over, now's the time to start to think about what you really might want outside, what type of space you could use with the kids, and how you might make the most of the outside area. Things, when you're renovating, there's a few things to consider on that piece. And as I said, what you really want, you need to start off really with an inspiring scrapbook. That's the best way of going about it. You might cut out pictures from magazines, check out Pinterest, Google something of interest. Even websites like House can inspire you. I know that when I went through this before, you think about how you get rid of that clothesline, how you can utilise space a little bit better. Is it going to be a garden area that you might be growing food and veggies in, or is it for plant life, and also taking into account if you've got pets at home as well. But the garden area all needs to start with inspiring, like all renovations. Plan, get it right from that phase. Paving your path is an important one, because you need to allow for a path that can walk through to your garden. Obviously in the winter months you don't want to have a garden at a distance from the backyard or the back door, and then you're trolling through mud or dirt and grass and picking up all stuff from the floor and bringing it inside. So a nice pathway keeps the flow from inside to outside and keeps your floors inside clean. And so you might be trying to match pavers that are already outside. You might have a paved driveway. Now you've got a driveway paver if you're in that situation, which can handle traffic. You don't need a paver of that sort of strength, but you can match pavers quite well. And if you're concerned that you've got a paver that might be around a pathway, around a house, the perimeter of the house, or in a driveway that you can't match, you can always go with things that are neutral. And there's a lot of good grey or concrete pavers out there that you can make work. But it's important to plan that piece. Where's that path going to go? Is it going to be a winding path? Is it a straight one? But get the path right, because that is a feature from when someone looks from the backyard, they see where the garden is, and they can actually see the paving path, that is where it's inviting them to go and spend time there. 3, make your garden look larger than what it actually is. And there's a few ways you can actually do this, and I've learned this from the professionals. So firstly, using a small number of plant selections, colour and objects will help. Don't try and just flood it with everything you can think of. Plan that piece properly, because if you actually get the plant selection right, the garden will actually look big and more imposing than perhaps reality is, because you might be concerned you've got a small backyard and a smaller garden. So think about that. If you've got a long yard, you can make it appear to be a bigger space by almost breaking it up in lengths, and you can use things like screens and trellises and even benches or raised garden beds, and that does help. So if you've got that longitudinal type garden, be thoughtful of how you can actually break that up in stages instead of just having one length and making it look like it's just a swimming pool that you filled in with dirt. If you've got a short yard, you can give it visual depth by actually looking to place things in the centre of the garden. So instead of trying to think about how the perimeter walls will be and how you might have some items around the perimeter of the garden, think about a central focal point in the centre of the garden. Eyes all go there, and then you're creating space on the outside of that. Consider retaining walls. They provide drainage as well, okay, and they make some really good casual seating. And one thing I've learned with retaining walls from experience is they can also reduce the visual impact if you're in a position where you've just got a plain wall or an ugly fence behind you. So a retaining wall can be made to work that way, and it also helps create a soft, lush strip between your horizontal and vertical planes. So plan retaining walls. There's a lot of information online about that, and I'll talk more about how we can help you there. But retaining walls come in both as a functional and a decorative piece for the garden area. And finally, keep it interesting. When you add levels in the garden, steps and angles, etc., it gives the garden a bit more of a feeling of that there's more to see there. It's not just a plain garden with a bit of dirt and loam inside. So you can get creative, but again, as I said from the first point, you need to plan that out, because once you've seen it and you visualise it, you can build around that. Now, there's an opportunity to use different building materials and blocks to add texture to a garden. Go with that. There's so many great items now out there that you can use, either synthetic or composite materials, even concrete materials. when you're renovating a garden, there are several ideas to think about. You need to always plan about drainage, because you can't just have a garden with earth in it and the water's just going to, if you get heavy rains or you've got your sprinkler systems on, where it's just going to soak up. So think about drainage systems, and think about things like retaining walls, or if you're using things like concrete blocks, that you may need to seal or waterproof those, because it's important to ensure that you're not going to create things like salt damp and efflorescence around your garden area to make it an ugly eyesore, particularly when you're renovating. You want it to be a feature part of your area. This is a design piece, and as I said, don't underestimate the garden area. I know a lot of time we look in, like I said, we look inside for renovation, then we focus on the backyard itself. But a garden you can do quite cost effectively with some good planning. If you need some help with this, Monster Go-To's there for you. We've got our Monster crew that can help with more advice and details. These are just a few tips on how to help guide you through how to make the garden more functional and give you the look you want. Any advice you need on this, contact these numbers now or get on the website. We're here to help you. Until next time, I'll see you on the next episode of MTV.